My name is Keisha Barnes, and I'm 34 years old. At our family barbecue last Saturday, I finally worked up the courage to tell them what happened. I said I had lost everything at the casino, that I was desperate and needed just $5,000 to avoid losing my house. My sister Tamika actually laughed in my face while her husband Marcus shook his head in disgust. My father just turned away and told me I'd made my bed, and now I had to lie in it. They had no idea I was testing them. And they had no idea that sitting in my new private investment account was a balance of over $67 million. Before I tell you how this test became their absolute worst nightmare, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever felt like the responsible one who always gets taken for granted, hit that like and subscribe button, because you are going to want to see what happens next. The real story started 6 weeks ago. I was sitting in my small home office in my modest 3-bedroom house in Decatur, staring at my laptop screen in complete disbelief. The numbers didn't make sense. They couldn't be real. But there they were, glowing in the dim light of my desk lamp. My cryptocurrency investment, the one I'd made 3 years ago with my last $8,000 of savings, the one everyone told me was stupid and reckless, had just exploded. Bitcoin had surged, Ethereum had soared, and my small, desperate gamble had turned into $67,000. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't jump up and down. I just sat there in the silence of my empty house and took one long, slow, deep breath. The kind of breath you take when you realize your entire life has just changed in an instant. Before I could even process what I was seeing, my phone buzzed on the desk. A text from my sister Tamika lit up the screen. Dad's car needs new transmission. He says you need to cover it. $800. Send it tonight. I looked at the $67 million on my screen. Then I looked at the $800 demand. This was my family. My sister Tamika, 36 years old, married to a man with a government job, but somehow always broke. My father Raymond, who had always seen me as the family bank. My brother Deshaun, 29, who hadn't held a job for more than 3 months in 5 years, but somehow always had money for the latest Jordans and PlayStation games. A strange, cold clarity washed over me. It wasn't anger. It was something else. Something sharp and clear. I stared at Tamika's text, at the demanding tone, at the assumption that I would just comply like I always did. I didn't respond. I just closed the laptop. I didn't call anyone to celebrate. I didn't share the news. I opened my work email and responded to 3 client inquiries for my freelance bookkeeping business. My silence was the first weapon I'd ever used. 2 weeks later, everything had changed. And nothing had changed. I had done everything right. I'd found the best wealth management attorney in Buckhead, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, who specialized in protecting sudden wealth. I'd created multiple LLCs. I'd diversified the assets. After all the strategic moves and tax planning, the final verified balance was $67,400,000. Ms. Chen had shaken my hand firmly. "Congratulations, Ms. Barnes," she'd said, her voice professional but warm. "Your life is about to change dramatically, but we'll make sure it changes on your terms." But when I drove back to my small house in Decatur, the one I'd been paying off for 8 years, my new life felt very, very far away. There was a notice on my door from the HOA. They were raising the quarterly fees by $200. The paint was peeling on the trim. My neighbor's dog had destroyed a section of my fence again. That $200 increase used to mean stress. It used to mean cutting back on groceries, skipping my monthly massage, that tight, anxious feeling in my stomach. Now it meant absolutely nothing. But seeing it brought something else back. A memory that had been buried for years. I was 19 years old, standing in my childhood bedroom in East Point. My father Raymond was there, holding my small metal lockbox, the one where I kept my savings. I had $3,000 in there, money I'd saved from working 2 jobs while going to community college, money for my books and supplies for the next semester. His voice was firm, not cruel, but absolute. "Keisha, baby, you gotta understand. Deshaun got accepted to that trade school program. This is his chance. This is an investment in his future, in the family's future." I had begged him. But Daddy, that's for my tuition. I need it for school. You're smart, Keisha, he'd said, patting my shoulder and closing the lockbox. You'll figure something else out. You always do. Deshawn, he needs more help. He's not like you. I did figure it out. I took out more loans. I worked 3 jobs. I never got that $3,000 back. Deshawn dropped out of the trade school after 2 months and used the money to buy a used motorcycle that he wrecked 3 weeks later. Back in the present, standing in my doorway, I looked at that $200 HOA notice. I looked at my phone with its encrypted banking app showing $67 million. The old pain, that familiar sting of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who was supposed to just handle it, rose up in my throat. This wasn't just about money. It was about the truth. It was about seeing who they really were when I wasn't there to catch them. I unlocked my phone. I went to our family group chat. And I started to type the biggest lie I'd ever told. A lie that would reveal the deepest truth. I was about to set a test. And I already knew, deep in my bones, that they were all going to fail. The setting for the test was perfect. Our monthly family barbecue at my father's house in East Point. It was tradition. Every first Saturday. The smell of his famous ribs on the grill. The sound of old-school R&B playing from the outdoor speakers. The sight of family members scattered across the backyard. Kids running through the sprinkler. I walked through the side gate carrying my usual contribution. A big bowl of potato salad and a case of beer. The scene was exactly as I'd expected. My sister Tamika was holding court at the patio table, showing off photos on her phone to our aunts. Her husband Marcus was near the grill with my father, both of them nursing beers and laughing. My brother Deshawn was in a lawn chair, expensive headphones on, scrolling through his phone, probably betting on some game. "Keisha!" my father called out, waving his tongs. "There she is. About time you got here. These ribs are almost ready." I set down the potato salad on the food table. Tamika looked up from her phone and gave me a once-over. "Girl, you look tired. You working too hard again? You know, if you just found yourself a good man with a real job, you wouldn't have to be grinding all the time." I smiled. Didn't say anything. Just smiled. The party went on. The ribs came off the grill. Plates were loaded. Sweet tea was poured. Everyone settled into their usual spots. This was when I usually faded into the background. The quiet one. The dependable one. But not today. I waited until everyone was eating. Until the conversation was light and comfortable. Then I set down my plate. Still full. My hands. I let them tremble just a little. Just enough. "Everyone," I said, my voice shaking. "I need to tell you something. Something really bad." The backyard went quiet. All eyes turned to me. This wasn't part of the script. Keisha didn't ask for attention. Keisha didn't make scenes. I looked down at my hands. I let my voice crack. "I'm in serious trouble. Like, really serious trouble." My father set down his rib. "What kind of trouble, baby girl?" I took a shuddering breath. The performance of my life. I went to the casino. The new one in Alabama. I just wanted to try it once. Just once. And I got caught up and I kept playing and I lost. I lost everything. The silence was profound. "Everything?" Tamika's voice was sharp. "What do you mean everything?" "I mean everything," I whispered, letting a tear slip down my cheek. All my savings. My emergency fund. I even took a cash advance on my credit cards. I thought I could win it back, but I just kept losing and now I'm so deep in the hole I can't see daylight. My father's face went hard. Marcus shook his head slowly. Deshawn took off his headphones, finally paying attention. "I'm going to lose my house," I continued, my voice breaking. "The bank sent the foreclosure notice yesterday. I need $5,000 just to stop the process. Just to buy some time. I swear I'll pay it back. Every penny. I swear on my life." The silence stretched out, long and heavy. Then Tamika let out a sound. Not quite a laugh, but close. A sharp, dismissive exhale. "A casino," she said flatly. "You went to a casino." "I made a mistake," I cried. "A terrible mistake. But I'm desperate. Please, I just need help this one time." My father stood up. He walked over to the grill and started scraping it down. His back was to me. He didn't turn around when he spoke. "Keisha, baby," he said, his voice tight and controlled. "What did you expect us to do? You're 34 years old. You made a grown woman's choice. Now you gotta face grown woman's consequences." I looked at him, at his back, at the way he wouldn't even look at me. "Daddy, please," I whispered. "I'm begging you." He turned then. His face was hard, disappointed. "You know I'm on a fixed income. I got my retirement and Social Security and that's it. I can't be giving out thousands of dollars to people who throw their money away on slot machines." "It wasn't slot machines," I started, but he cut me off. "I don't care what it was," he said sharply. "Gambling is gambling, and I didn't raise you to be a gambler. I raised you to be smart, to be responsible, and you let me down." The words hit like physical blows, each one carefully aimed, each one designed to make me feel small. "Besides," he continued, his voice getting harder, "I got my own needs, my own problems. I can't be fixing yours." Tamika stood up, brushing off her hands. "Keisha, honestly, this is disappointing. Like, really disappointing. You've always been the one with your head on straight, the one we could count on. And now you're asking us for money because you got addicted to gambling?" "I'm not addicted," I protested weakly. "It was one time that cost you everything." Marcus chimed in, his voice dripping with judgment. "You know what that sounds like? Addiction." My brother Deshaun finally spoke. He didn't even get up from his lawn chair. "Yo, sis, I hate to say it, but that's on you. Like, everybody knows the casino always wins. That's some basic stuff." I looked around at all of them. My family. The people I had supported, helped, bailed out countless times. And not one of them was reaching for a wallet. Not one of them was saying, "How can we help?" I let another tear fall. "So that's it? Nobody can help me? Not even a little?" My father sighed. A long, tired sigh. "Keisha, you're just gonna have to figure this out like you figured out everything else in your life. You're smart. You'll land on your feet. You always do." He turned back to the grill. Dismissed. Just like that. The test wasn't over yet. But I had my first answers. And they were exactly what I'd expected. I left the barbecue early. I told them I felt sick, which wasn't entirely a lie. I felt sick to my stomach with the truth of what I'd just witnessed. I got in my car, a 5-year-old Toyota Camry, reliable and paid off, and I just sat there in the driveway for a moment. Through the side gate, I could hear the party continuing. Laughter, music, the sound of life going on without me. They had already moved past my crisis, already forgotten. The test wasn't complete. There were others, people I had helped over the years, people who owed me. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. I found my cousin Devin's number. 3 years ago, Devin had called me at midnight, crying. His wife had thrown him out. He'd been staying in his car. I let him crash on my couch for 4 months. I bought his groceries. I paid his phone bill so he could look for work. I helped him get back on his feet. I never asked for a penny back. I pressed call. He answered on the second ring, sounding out of breath. "Keisha." "What's up, cuz?" "Devin," I said, letting my voice shake. "I need help. I'm in real trouble." I told him the same story. The casino, the losses, the foreclosure, the desperate need for $5,000. He was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "Man, Keisha, that's rough. That's really rough. Can you help me?" I asked. "Even just a little bit? Anything would help." "See, the thing is," he started, his voice taking on that apologetic tone I knew so well. "Michelle and I, we're trying to save up for this vacation. We're taking the kids to Disney World. It's already paid for, you know? The deposit and everything. Non-refundable." "Devin, I'm about to be homeless," I said, my voice breaking. "Yeah, I feel you, cuz. I really do. But like, have you tried getting a loan? Like a personal loan from one of those online places? They approve everybody. The interest is crazy, but desperate times, you know? He was telling me to go into predatory debt to solve my fake crisis, my cousin, the one I'd saved from living in his car. I'll figure something out, I said quietly. Yeah, you always do, Keisha. You're like the most resourceful person I know. You'll bounce back. Hey, I gotta go. Michelle's calling me, but good luck, cuz. For real. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. The betrayal wasn't surprising, but it still hurt. Even knowing it was fake, even knowing I was testing them, the rejection felt real. I scrolled further, found my Aunt Jackie's number, my father's sister. 6 months ago, her furnace had died in the middle of January. It was going to be $4,000 to replace it. She called me crying. I paid for the whole thing. Told her it was a gift. Told her not to worry about paying me back. I called her. She picked up, her voice bright and cheerful. Keisha, baby. How are you? I told her the story. The casino. The loss. The desperate situation. I asked for help. Any help. There was a pause. Then her voice changed. Got cooler. More distant. Oh, honey, that's such a shame. But you know, Jackie Jr. just started at Georgia State. Tuition is no joke. And I'm already stretched so thin with his expenses. Aunt Jackie, I paid for your furnace, I said quietly. And I appreciate that, baby. I really do. But that was a gift. You said so yourself. And this is different. This is about bad choices. I can't enable bad choices, Keisha. You understand that, right? My hand tightened on the phone. So you can't help at all? I just can't right now, baby. But I'll pray for you. I'll put you on the prayer list at church. God will make a way. He always does. She hung up. Prayer list. Not a single dollar, but she'd put me on the prayer list. I had one more call to make. The hardest one. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in months. Pastor Michaels, the pastor at my church. The church I'd been attending for 10 years. The church where I tithed regularly. Where I volunteered in the children's ministry. Where I'd organized the food bank drives. Last year, the church had needed a new roof. Emergency situation. They'd asked the congregation for help. I'd written a check for $10,000. Anonymous. Only Pastor Michaels knew it was from me. I called his personal cell. He answered warmly. Sister Keisha, what a blessing to hear from you. I told him everything. The casino, the losses, the foreclosure, the desperate need. I'm asking the church for help, Pastor, I said, my voice raw. I know the benevolence fund is for situations like this. I just need enough to stop the foreclosure. $5,000. I'll pay it back when I can. He was quiet. Then he cleared his throat. Sister Keisha, I'm going to be honest with you. The Benevolence Committee, they have guidelines. And gambling debts, well, they're not covered under the fund's mission statement. But Pastor, I'm a member. I've given to this church for years. And we appreciate your faithfulness, he said smoothly. But we have to be wise stewards. We can't use church funds to enable destructive behavior. However, I'd be happy to connect you with our financial counseling ministry, and of course addiction counseling if you need it. I'm not an addict, I said. Of course not. But sometimes we all need help seeing our blind spots. I'll have someone reach out to you. He hung up. I sat in my car, in my father's driveway, and the despair I felt was almost overwhelming. Even though I knew it was a test. Even though I knew I had $67 million sitting safely in investment accounts. The rejection was real. The abandonment was real. Every single person I had ever helped, every single person I had sacrificed for, had turned their back on me in my moment of fake need. The test was complete. The results were clear. I was utterly and completely alone. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. There was one more person I needed to see. One more person who would prove whether humanity itself had failed me. I drove in silence across town. No music, no radio. Just the sound of my thoughts and the gentle hum of the engine. I found myself pulling up to a small, neat house in Vine City. The house was modest, but the yard was immaculate. Flowers lined the walkway. A small vegetable garden thrived in the side yard. This was Mrs. Dorothy Washington's house. Mrs. Dorothy, or Miss Dot as everyone called her, was 71 years old. She'd been my grandmother's best friend for 40 years. My family called her that strange old woman. They thought she was odd because she lived simply, spoke her mind, and refused to participate in family drama. But to me, she'd always been different. She'd always seen me. I knocked on her door. The smell of fresh-baked cornbread drifted through the screen. The door opened, and there she stood, wearing a simple house dress and an apron. Her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, her dark eyes sharp and clear behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Keisha, child," she said, her voice warm but surprised. "What you doing here this time of evening?" "Miss Dot," I started, and my voice cracked. Not from acting this time, but from real emotion. "I'm sorry to bother you. I didn't know where else to go." She looked at me, really looked at me, took in my puffy eyes, my trembling hands, the weight of something heavy on my shoulders. She didn't ask questions. She just opened the door wider and stepped aside. "Come on in here, child. I just made some cornbread and greens. Sit yourself down." Her house was small but spotless. Doilies on the furniture, pictures of Jesus and Martin Luther King Jr. on the walls, a small dining table with a Bible and a crossword puzzle book. The smell of home cooking filled every corner. I sat on her worn floral couch and I broke. I told her everything. Not the truth about the money. I couldn't. Not yet. But I told her the lie. The casino. The losses. The foreclosure. The family's rejection. Miss Dot didn't interrupt. She just listened. Her hands moved steadily, cutting her cornbread into squares, wrapping each piece in foil, placing them in a basket. She was preparing for tomorrow's church potluck. Her movements were meditative, peaceful. When I finished, my voice was hoarse, my throat raw. "I don't know what to do, Miss Dot. I have nowhere to turn." She placed the last piece of cornbread in the basket. She wiped her hands on her apron. She walked past me down the narrow hallway to her bedroom. I heard a drawer open. I panicked. Was she getting ready to tell me to leave? Did she think I was a fool too? She came back out holding a small wooden box, an old cigar box, the kind people keep their most precious things in. She sat down beside me on the couch and opened it. Inside were bills, carefully folded bills. 1s, 5s, 10s, a few 20s. Old bills, some of them, worn soft from handling. "This is my emergency money," she said quietly, her voice steady. "It ain't much. I've been saving it up for years. It's $2,100. I stared at the box, at the carefully saved money. "Miss Dot, no, I can't." "You can and you will," she said firmly. She started counting out the bills, her weathered fingers moving with practiced precision. "It ain't the full $5,000 you need, but it's a start. It'll at least buy you some time with the bank. Miss Dot, this is your emergency fund. What if you need it?" She looked at me, her eyes fierce and clear. "Child, what you think an emergency is? An emergency is when somebody you love is hurting. An emergency is when family needs help." "But I'm not your family," I whispered. Her hand shot out and grabbed mine. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Family ain't just blood, baby. Family is the people who show up. Family is the people who see you when you're hurting and they don't walk away." She pressed the money into my hand, closed my fingers around it. $2,100. It's yours. No paying back. No interest. No guilt. I looked at her, this woman who lived on Social Security and her tiny church organist stipend. This woman who was giving me literally all of her emergency savings because I asked for help. "Miss Dot, I can't take this from you. What if something happens? What if your car breaks down? What if you get sick?" She smiled. A small, knowing smile. "Then I'll figure it out. Like I always do. Money comes and goes, Keisha. But integrity, that stays forever. Your grandmother, May, she raised you to be strong. She raised you to be good. And I'll be damned if I let May's grandbaby sleep on the street when I got breath in my body and dollars in my box." She pulled me into her arms. She smelled like ivory soap and vanilla and home. And I broke. I sobbed. Real sobs this time. Not from acting. but from the overwhelming weight of what she'd just done. This poor old woman had just offered me everything she had. Why? I whispered into her shoulder. Why are you so good to me when my own family won't even try? Because I see you, child, she said softly, rocking me gently. I always have, just like your Grandma May did. And what I see is a diamond. A real diamond. Solid all the way through. Strong. Clear. Valuable. I pulled back, wiping my face. A memory hit me like a lightning bolt. Miss Dot, do you remember my high school graduation? She smiled. I remember. I had worked so hard, I said, the memory flooding back. I had gotten accepted to Spelman, full academic scholarship. I just needed money for my housing deposit. Just $500. I asked my daddy for it. Miss Dot nodded slowly. I remember. He told me he didn't have it, said money was tight. But then 2 days later, I heard him bragging to his friends. He'd just bought Deshawn a new sound system for his car. $800, because Deshawn was going through a hard time after getting fired from his job. My voice cracked. I came here, to this house. I sat on this couch and I cried. I told you I was going to have to defer enrollment because I couldn't afford the housing. And what did I do? Miss Dot asked gently. You went to your bedroom. You came back with that same cigar box, and you counted out $500 in small bills. Money you'd been saving for a new winter coat. That old coat lasted me 3 more years, she said with a chuckle. I got my money's worth. You saved my future, Miss Dot, I whispered. You made it possible for me to go to Spelman, to get my degree, to build my life. She cupped my face in her hands. And look at you now. Strong, independent, smart. That's who you've always been, Keisha. Don't let one mistake define you. Don't let these people make you feel small. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This was family. This was real love. This was the hand pulling me up while everyone else pushed me down. I stood up. I felt different. Taller. Clearer. I gently took the money she'd counted out and placed it back in the cigar box. I closed the lid and handed it back to her. Miss Dot, I need you to keep this, I said, my voice steady now. Not the voice of the desperate woman who'd knocked on the door, but something else, something stronger. But child, please, I said, keep it safe. I promise you, I'm going to be okay. I just realized I have a resource I forgot about, something that's going to help me through this. It was a lie, but it was also the truest thing I'd ever said. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine. Then she nodded slowly. All right, baby, if you say so. I hugged her again, tight. I love you, Miss Dot. Thank you for being you. Thank you for seeing me. I love you too, child. Now you go handle your business. I walked out of her small, warm house. I walked to my car. I sat in the driver's seat under the streetlights. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. The desperate, broken woman who'd walked in there was gone. In her place was someone new. Someone with clarity. Someone with purpose. Someone who now knew exactly who deserved her loyalty and who didn't. My father's words echoed in my head. You'll figure it out like you always do. Tamika's words. This is disappointing. Deshawn's words. That's on you. Miss Dot's words. Go handle your business. Okay, I whispered to my reflection. I will. The test was over. The answers were clear. This was no longer a test. This was war. But a war fought with strategy, not anger. A war fought with truth, not violence. I picked up my phone. I scrolled past all my family's numbers until I found the one I'd added 2 weeks ago. The one saved simply as PC. I pressed call. It rang once. A crisp, professional voice answered. Patricia Chen Law Offices. How may I help you? Yes, I said, my voice calm and cold as ice. I need to speak with Attorney Patricia Chen directly. It's urgent. May I ask who's calling? Yes, I said, staring at my reflection. My name is Keisha Barnes. She'll know what this is about. 1 moment, please. I held. I didn't fidget. I didn't doubt. I just waited. Keisha? Patricia's voice came on, professional but concerned. Is everything all right? Everything is fine, Patricia, I said. In fact, things have just become very, very clear. I need your help with something. Something that's going to require your expertise in family law and your creativity. There was a pause. I'm listening. My family, I said slowly, deliberately, has just shown me who they really are, and I need to show them who I really am. But I need to do it strategically, legally, and permanently. Go on, she said, and I could hear the interest in her voice. I have a plan, I said. It's going to require contracts, documentation, and a very, very large financial foundation. When do you want to meet? First thing Monday morning, I said. They think I'm desperate. They think I'm broken. They think I'm alone. They're about to learn just how wrong they were. I hung up. I looked at my reflection one more time, and for the first time in weeks I smiled. A real smile. A smile that promised justice. Hook, line, and sinker. I let them stew. I let an entire week go by. I let them imagine me desperate, scared, maybe even homeless. I let them taste their victory. The victory of being right about me being a screw-up. The victory of not having to help. During that week, I got exactly 3 texts. From Tamika. Hope you're doing okay. Let us know if you need anything. But also, you really should get some help for the gambling thing. From my father. Thinking about you, baby girl. Remember, tough times build character. From Deshawn. Just a gif. A gif of someone throwing money in the air with the caption, "When you win big at the casino." He thought it was funny. I didn't respond to any of them. My silence was carefully calculated. I needed to sound completely defeated when I finally made contact. I needed them to feel like they'd broken me. Because that's when people get sloppy. That's when they reveal their true nature. On the 8th day after the barbecue, I made my move. I sat in my car around the corner from my house. I took several deep breaths, summoning the old Keisha, the desperate one, the broken one, the one with no options. Then I called my sister. I put the phone on speaker so I could hear every nuance, every cruelty, every bit of truth. She answered on the 4th ring. Her voice was annoyed. "Keisha, what is it now?" "Tamika," I said, and I was proud of how broken my voice sounded, how small. "Tamika, please don't hang up." "I wasn't going to hang up," she lied. "What do you want?" "I need to tell you something important. About the house. Your house that you're losing?" Her voice was sharp. "What about it?" "I talked to a lawyer," I whispered. "A real estate lawyer, pro bono. He looked at my situation and he said there might be a way to save it." I could hear her sit up, hear her interest spike. "A way to save it how?" "Well, you know how Grandma May left me her house when she died? The one in Vine City that's been sitting empty for 2 years?" "Yeah?" Tamika's voice was cautious now. "Interested. The lawyer said I could sell it. Fast. Like really fast. He has a buyer who's interested. Someone who buys properties as is for quick cash." Silence. Then, "How much?" He said probably around $85,000. "It needs a lot of work. The roof is bad, the plumbing is shot. But the buyer is willing to take it off my hands for cash. Close in like 3 days." More silence. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. "Wait," she said slowly. "That house wasn't left just to you. Grandma May split it 3 ways. You, me, and Deshawn. 1/3 each." "I know," I said, letting my voice crack. "But I'm desperate, Tamika. I was hoping maybe you and Deshawn would let me have your shares. Just this once. Because I'm family and I'm in trouble." The laugh that came through the phone was cold. Sharp. "Let you have our shares? Keisha, are you out of your mind? That's my inheritance. That's Deshawn's inheritance. That house is worth money. But it's just sitting there rotting." I protested weakly. "Nobody's doing anything with it." "That's not the point," she snapped. "The point is, it's ours. And if somebody's buying it for $85,000, then we're all getting our cuts. That's how inheritance works." "But Tamika, I need the money to save my house. And I need money for my kids' college fund," she shot back. "And Deshawn needs money for, well, Whatever Deshawn needs money for. Your gambling problem is not our responsibility, Keisha. We all get our fair share. 1/3 each. That's like $28,000 each. That's fair. I let out a sob. A defeated, broken sob. Okay, you're right. Can we all meet with the lawyer? To sign the papers? Of course we can, Tamika said, her voice suddenly bright and cheerful. When? Tomorrow? He said the buyer wants to close fast. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Where? His office. It's in Buckhead. I'll text you the address. We'll be there, she said. Then her voice softened, took on that fake sympathetic tone. And Keisha, this is for the best. You'll still get your share. $28,000 is better than nothing, right? That'll help with your situation. Yeah, I whispered. It'll help. Great. See you tomorrow. And Keisha, try not to gamble this money away, okay? She laughed. Actually laughed. She hung up. I sat there in my car, staring at the phone. The trap was set. The bait was out. And they were already circling. I made 2 more calls. One to Deshawn, feeding him the same story. He agreed immediately. $28,000, he'd said. Hell yeah, I'm there. I can get that new dirt bike I've been wanting. The other call to my father. Same story, same result. Well, I guess this is good timing, he'd said. I was hoping to get my roof fixed this spring. This'll cover it. Not one of them, not a single one, offered to give me their share to help me save my house. Not even a little bit. Not even a gesture. The text came from Tamika that night. Me, Marcus, Deshawn, and Daddy will all be there tomorrow at 2. We're excited to finally sell Grandma's house and get our money. Thanks for setting this up. Thanks for setting this up. Like I was doing them a favor. Like I wasn't supposedly drowning. I texted back. See you then. Then I called Patricia Chen. It's done, I said. They're all coming tomorrow. They think they're selling Grandma's house for $85,000 and splitting it 3 ways. And the reality? Patricia asked, and I could hear the smile in her voice. The reality is that house is in one of the hottest development zones in Atlanta. It's been assessed at $420,000, and they're about to try to cheat me out of my full share. Perfect, Patricia said. I've prepared everything. The real purchase contract, the recording equipment, the notary, and I've got something special planned, something they won't see coming. What's that? You'll see tomorrow. Trust me. It's going to be beautiful. The office of Patricia Chen was not what they expected. The address I'd given them was for a legitimate law office in Buckhead, one of the most expensive buildings in Atlanta. But I'd told them to meet me in the lobby. When they arrived, I was already there, sitting in a chair near the elevators, wearing old jeans and a faded t-shirt, my hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. I looked defeated, worn down, exactly like someone who'd lost everything at a casino. Tamika arrived first with Marcus. She was dressed up, wearing a nice dress and heels, like she was going somewhere important after this. Marcus was in slacks and a button-down. They looked like they were attending a celebration. Hey, Tamika said, barely looking at me. We ready to do this? Yeah, I mumbled. Just waiting for Daddy and Deshawn. They arrived 5 minutes later. My father in his church suit, Deshawn in new Jordans and designer jeans. The 4 of them stood together, chatting, excited, while I sat alone in my chair. Finally, I stood up. Okay, let's go. The lawyer is upstairs. We rode the elevator to the 22nd floor. The doors opened to a stunning reception area. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern art on the walls. A receptionist behind a sleek desk. We're here to see Attorney Chen, I said quietly. Of course, the receptionist said with a professional smile. Conference room B. Right this way. My family exchanged looks. This wasn't what they expected. This was expensive. This was real. We walked into a conference room that was all glass and chrome and leather chairs around a massive table. Patricia Chen was already there, standing at the head of the table in an impeccable navy suit. She was flanked by 2 associates, a man and a woman, both with laptops open and stacks of documents in front of them. Good afternoon, Patricia said, her voice professional and cool. "Please, have a seat." My family sat on one side of the table. I sat on the other, alone. Patricia remained standing. "Now," Patricia began, "I understand we're here to discuss the sale of property located at 1847 Westwood Avenue in Vine City, inherited from the late May Barnes. Is that correct?" "That's right," my father said, trying to sound authoritative. "My mother's old house. My daughters and son inherited it. 1/3 each. We have a buyer for $85,000 and we're ready to sign." Patricia nodded slowly. "I see. And you're aware that this property is being sold as is, with no repairs or improvements?" Yeah, Deshawn said impatiently. "It's a dump. That's why we're only getting $85,000. Can we just sign and get our checks?" Patricia's face remained neutral. "Before we proceed, I need to inform you all of something important. Something that affects the legality of this transaction." The room went quiet. Tamika leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Patricia pressed a button on a small remote. A large screen on the wall lit up. On it was a document. An official-looking document with stamps and seals. "This," Patricia said, "is the most recent county tax assessment for the property at 1847 Westwood Avenue. It was completed 2 months ago." My father squinted at the screen. "What's that got to do with anything?" "The assessed value," Patricia said, letting the words hang in the air, "is $420,000. The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. "Wait, what?" Tamika's voice was a strangled whisper. $420,000, Patricia repeated. "The Vine City area has experienced significant development in the past 3 years. Property values have increased by an average of 380%. This house, even in as-is condition, is worth substantially more than $85,000. Marcus spoke up, his voice suspicious. "So who's this buyer offering $85,000? That's like robbery." Patricia's eyes slid to me, then back to them. "That's an excellent question. Perhaps we should ask Ms. Keisha Barnes who brought you this deal." All eyes turned to me. The desperate, defeated Keisha in her cheap clothes. I didn't say anything. I just watched them. My father's face was going red. "Keisha, what is going on here?" Before I could answer, Tamika exploded. Oh my God, she's trying to scam us. She brought us some lowball offer so she could cheat us out of our inheritance." "That's not—" I started, but Deshawn cut me off. "Yo, this is messed up. This is straight up fraud. You trying to steal from your own family?" The room erupted, all 3 of them shouting at once, accusations flying. But Patricia just stood there, calm and cool, letting them vent. And in my pocket, my phone was recording every word. Finally, Patricia held up her hand. The room quieted. "Before you all continue making accusations, I need to show you something else." She pressed the remote again. The screen changed. Now it showed a different document, a contract. "This," Patricia said, "is the actual purchase agreement that I prepared at Ms. Barnes's request. A legitimate offer from a legitimate developer. The purchase price is $420,000, to be split equally 3 ways as per the terms of May Barnes's will. Each of you would receive $140,000. The shift in the room was instant. Greed replaced anger. "Wait," Tamika said, her voice changing, softening. "Wait, so there's a real buyer? For the full value?" "Yes," Patricia said. "That buyer is waiting for your signatures. $140,000. My father's voice was amazed. "Each?" "Each," Patricia confirmed. Deshawn was grinning. Okay, I see you, sis, I see you. You came through after all. Let's sign this thing." But Patricia wasn't done. "However," she said, her voice taking on a sharper edge, "there's a problem. A legal problem. An ethical problem." The room tensed again. "What problem?" Marcus asked. Patricia looked directly at my sister. "Miss Tamika, when Ms. Keisha called you to discuss this sale, what exactly did she tell you?" Tamika blinked. "She said she needed to sell the house to save herself from foreclosure. She asked if Deshawn and I would let her have our shares." "And what was your response?" "I said no." Obviously. That's our inheritance. She can't just have it. Patricia nodded. And did you, at any point, offer to help your sister avoid foreclosure? Even with the $140,000 you were about to receive? Tamika's face went blank. What does that have to do with anything? Everything, Patricia said coldly. She pressed the remote once more. The screen changed again. This time it showed a document with a title in large, bold letters. Evidence of financial elder abuse and familial exploitation. My father stood up. What the hell is this? Patricia's voice was ice. This, Mr. Raymond Barnes, is a comprehensive legal document that Ms. Keisha Barnes has prepared with my assistance. It details every instance over the past 15 years in which you have exploited your daughter financially. She clicked through a series of slides. Each one was a different incident. Bank records, receipts, text messages, emails. Here we have the $3,000 taken from Keisha when she was 19 to fund Deshawn's failed trade school attempt. Here we have the $800 car transmission that Keisha paid for last month. Here we have the $1,200 in medical bills Keisha paid for Raymond's doctor visits. Here we have the $2,500 in credit card debt Keisha paid off for Tamika. The list went on and on. Years of receipts, years of evidence, years of me being the family ATM. The total at the end, $47,600. Over 15 years, Patricia said, her voice like a prosecutor's. Ms. Keisha Barnes has paid out $47,600 to her family in loans, gifts, and emergency funds. And not once, not a single time, has any of it been paid back. My family sat in stunned silence. Now, Patricia continued, when Ms. Keisha was facing foreclosure, or so she claimed, and asked for help, for just $5,000, what did you do? Silence. Mr. Raymond Barnes told her to figure it out herself. Ms. Tamika told her it was disappointing. Deshawn said it was on her. And none of you, not one, offered to help. Tamika found her voice. It was shaking. This is ridiculous. We're family. Family helps family. That's what she was supposed to do. Interesting, Patricia said, because that philosophy seems to only apply one direction. When you need help, Keisha is supposed to give it. But when Keisha needs help, suddenly it's about personal responsibility. My father was red-faced. This is our family business. This has nothing to do with some lawyer. Patricia smiled. A thin, cold smile. Actually, Mr. Barnes, it has everything to do with me. Because Ms. Keisha Barnes has hired me to protect her interests. And those interests include ensuring that she is treated fairly in all family financial matters going forward. What does that mean? Marcus asked nervously. Patricia looked at me. I nodded. It was time. I stood up. Slowly. The room went quiet. They all looked at me. At little Keisha, the doormat, the ATM, the reliable one. When I spoke, my voice wasn't shaking. It wasn't small. It was clear, and cold, and strong. It means, I said, that I didn't lose my fortune at the casino. The confusion on their faces was beautiful. What? Tamika whispered. I never went to the casino, I continued. I never lost anything. I never faced foreclosure. It was all a test. A test to see if any of you, would help me the way I've helped you all these years. My father's mouth opened and closed. You lied? I tested, I corrected, and you all failed. Spectacularly. Deshawn stood up. Yo, this is some psycho stuff. You can't just lie to family like that. Can't I? I asked. You've all been lying to me for years. Lying when you said you'd pay me back. Lying when you said next time you'd help me out. Lying when you said family takes care of family. Tamika was shaking her head. No, you don't understand. We have bills. We have responsibilities. We couldn't just give you $5,000. But you could ask me for $800 for a transmission last month? I interrupted. You could ask me for $2,500 to pay off your credit cards? That was okay? That's different, she yelled. How? My voice was sharp. How is it different? She didn't have an answer. I looked at Patricia. Show them. Patricia pressed the remote one final time. The screen changed to show a bank statement. My bank statement, the one with the $67 million balance. The room went dead silent. All eyes locked on the number. 67? My father's voice trailed off. He couldn't even say it. Million, I finished for him. $67 million. From a cryptocurrency investment I made 3 years ago. The one you all told me was stupid. The one you all laughed at. Tamika was standing now, her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. You have $67 million? I do, I said calmly. And when I pretended to need $5,000, when I was supposedly facing homelessness, not one of you could spare $1. The realization was hitting them now. The horror of it. The magnitude of their failure. My father sat down heavily. Keisha, baby, you don't understand. You thought I was a screw-up, I finished. You thought I deserved what I got. You thought it was my own fault and not your problem. But we're family, Tamika said, and her voice was desperate now. Family forgives. Family moves past mistakes. We can start over. We can start over. I laughed. A cold, bitter laugh. Oh no, we're not starting over. We're ending. This meeting isn't about selling Grandma's house. Patricia took over. This meeting, as Mr. Barnes so astutely pointed out, is about family business, specifically the settlement of debts. She slid 3 documents across the table. One to my father, one to Tamika, one to Deshawn. These are itemized invoices for the amounts each of you owes to Ms. Keisha Barnes, plus interest calculated at the standard legal rate. You have 30 days to pay in full. My father looked at his invoice. His face went pale. This says I owe $18,000. That's correct, Patricia said. Tamika's invoice was $12,000. Deshawn's was $7,000. And if we don't pay? Deshawn asked, his voice small. Then Ms. Barnes will file a civil lawsuit for recovery of funds, plus legal fees, plus damages for emotional distress, Patricia said smoothly. Given the documented evidence, I'm confident we'll win. This is insane, Marcus said. You can't sue family. Watch me, I said. But wait, what about the house? My father was desperate now. What about Grandma's house? The $420,000. I looked at him. At all of them. Oh, that. Well, here's the thing. I already bought it. What? Last week, I bought out your shares. You remember that standard contract you all signed when Grandma died? The one that gave each heir right of first refusal? I exercised it. I bought your 2/3 for market value, $280,000. The checks were mailed to you yesterday. You'll get them next week. Tamika was shaking her head. No, we never agreed to that. You did, Patricia said. In the original inheritance paperwork. It's all legal. All binding. So what? You get the house and we get nothing. Deshawn's voice was bitter. You get $140,000 each, I corrected. More than nothing. More than you gave me when I needed help. This isn't fair, Tamika shrieked. You lied to us. You manipulated us. I tested you, I said again. And I'm just treating you the way you treated me. Like family business is just business. Patricia gathered her documents. This meeting is concluded. You all know where to send your debt payments. Ms. Barnes, shall we? I stood up. I walked toward the door. Then I stopped. I turned back to look at them all. Their faces a mixture of shock, anger, and dawning comprehension. By the way, I said, my voice soft but clear. When I was sitting in my car outside Miss Dot Washington's house last week, when she offered me her entire emergency fund of $2,100 to help with my fake foreclosure, I recorded that too. The woman who lives on $900 a month offered me everything she had. My family, who was about to get $140,000 each, offered me nothing. I let that sink in. The difference between her and you? She's the only family that matters anymore. I walked out. Patricia followed. The door closed behind us, and inside that conference room, my former family sat in silence with their shame. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of Grandma May's house in Vine City. It wasn't a rotting shell anymore. There were workers everywhere. The roof was being replaced. The windows were being upgraded. A new porch was being built. Fresh paint was going up. A large sign in the front yard read, "The May and Dorothy House, opening soon." Miss Dot stood beside me, her arm linked through mine, tears running down her face. "Child, what is all this?" she whispered. "This," I said, "is a resource center for women who need help. Financial literacy classes, job training, legal aid, counseling. A place where women can learn that their worth isn't determined by their bank account or their family's opinion of them." "And the name?" she asked. "Named after the two women who actually understood what family means," I said. "Grandma May and you." She squeezed my arm. "Keisha, this is beautiful. But what about you? What about your family? They'll pay their debts," I said. "Or they won't. Either way, they're not my problem anymore." "That seems harsh," Miss Dot said gently. "Maybe," I admitted. "But you taught me something, Miss Dot. You taught me that family is about showing up, about sacrifice, about love that costs something." I looked at the house, the future center, the beginning of something good. They showed me they're not willing to show up. So I'm done showing up for them. Instead, I'm showing up for people who actually need it. People who will appreciate it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text from Tamika. "We need to talk. This has gone too far. We're family. You can't just cut us off." I looked at the text. I thought about responding, about trying to explain one more time. Then I thought about the barbecue, the rejection, the laughter at my supposed failure, the greed when they thought they'd profit. I deleted the text. I turned my phone off. "Who was that?" Miss Dot asked. "Nobody important," I said. We stood there together, watching the workers transform that old house into something beautiful, something useful, something that would actually help people. "You know what the hardest part of all this was?" I asked Miss Dot. "What's that, baby?" "Realizing I didn't need them to approve of me, or see me, or value me. I just needed to see my own worth. And once I did, everything else became clear." Miss Dot smiled. "That's the real treasure, child. Not the money, the clarity. The money helps, though," I said with a laugh. "It surely does," she agreed. "It surely does." 1 month later, the May and Dorothy House opened its doors. The first program, a financial literacy workshop for women who'd been financially exploited by family members. 20 women showed up, all with stories similar to mine, all trying to rebuild, all trying to understand their worth. I stood at the front of the room, no longer hiding my success, no longer pretending to be small. "My name is Keisha Barnes," I said, "and I'm here to tell you that your worth is not determined by who stays when you can't give anymore. Your worth is determined by who you are when nobody's watching, by what you do with what you've been given, and by who you choose to help when you have the power to help." The women nodded. Some cried. All understood. "I tested my family," I continued. "I pretended I had lost everything at the casino, and when I asked for help, they gave me nothing. But a woman who barely had anything gave me everything. That's when I knew who my real family was." After the workshop, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 25, nervous, wringing her hands. "Ms. Barnes, I just wanted to say thank you. My family, they've been using me like an ATM for years. And I've been so confused because I thought that's what family was supposed to do. But your story, it helped me see that I don't have to accept that." I smiled at her. "You don't. You have permission to set boundaries, to protect yourself, to choose who gets access to your life and your resources." "But what if they cut me off?" she asked, her voice small. "What if they stop talking to me? Then you'll know they weren't there for you in the first place," I said gently. "They were there for what you could give them. And that's not family. That's exploitation." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you. Thank you for showing us it's okay to walk away." As she left, Miss Dot came up beside me. "You're changing lives, child." "I'm just telling the truth," I said. "The truth that took me 34 years and $67 million to learn." "And what's that truth?" "That sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you need. And that's okay. Because you can build the family you deserve." Miss Dot squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would be so proud of you." "I hope so," I said, looking around at the center, at the women learning and healing and growing. "I really hope so." My phone buzzed. Another text from Tamika, the 5th one this week. I didn't read it. I didn't need to. There was nothing she could say that would change what happened. Nothing that would undo the test they failed. The story could have ended there, with me cutting off my family and moving on. But life is rarely that clean. 3 months after the house opened, I got a call. From the hospital. My father had had a heart attack. He was stable, but it was serious. The nurse on the phone was matter of fact. "Are you his daughter, Keisha?" "Yes. He's asking for you. He's in ICU. Visiting hours are..." I hung up before she finished. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the May and Dorothy house, staring at my phone. My father was in the hospital. My father who had turned his back on me when I supposedly needed him. My father who had chosen my siblings over me my entire life. My father who had taken my money and given me nothing but disappointment. What did I owe him? Miss Dot found me there, sitting in silence. She got in the passenger seat without asking. "You heard?" I said. It wasn't a question. "I heard," she confirmed. "Deacon James called me. Raymond's at Grady. It's serious." "Good," I said. The word surprised me, the coldness of it. But I meant it. Miss Dot was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You don't mean that, child." "Yes, I do," I said, and my voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. "He made his choice. Now he gets to live with it. Or not." "Keisha." "No," I interrupted. "No. Don't tell me about forgiveness. Don't tell me about being the bigger person. Don't tell me that he's my father and I owe him something. Because I don't. I don't owe him anything. He made that very clear." "What about your soul?" Miss Dot asked gently. "What does this do to your soul?" I looked at her. "My soul is just fine. My soul is better than it's ever been. Because I finally stopped letting people who don't value me dictate my worth." "Going to see him isn't about his worth," Miss Dot said. "It's about yours." I drove to the hospital. Not because Miss Dot guilted me into it. Not because I felt obligated. But because she was right about one thing. This was about me, not him. I walked into the ICU. My father looked small in the hospital bed. Old, vulnerable. All the machines beeping and hissing around him. Tamika was there, sitting in a chair, her eyes red from crying. Marcus stood by the window. Deshawn was nowhere to be seen. Tamika looked up when I walked in. Her face transformed. Relief, hope, desperation. "Keisha," she breathed. "Oh, thank God. Thank God you came." I didn't respond. I walked to the bed, looked down at my father. His eyes were closed. An oxygen mask over his face. IV lines in his arms. "The doctors say it's bad," Tamika said, her voice shaking. "They say he needs surgery, bypass surgery, but the insurance, it doesn't cover everything. The out-of-pocket is going to be $75,000. I waited. I knew what was coming. "Keisha," Tamika continued, standing up, coming closer. "I know things have been weird between us. I know you're upset about the test and everything. But this is Daddy. This is life or death. We need to put aside our differences and help him." "We?" I asked, my voice flat. "Family?" she said. "We're family, and family helps family, right?" There it was, the line I'd heard my entire life, the line that only seemed to apply when they needed something. "How much can you give?" Tamika pressed. "I know you have it. I know you have millions. Surely you can spare $75,000 for Daddy's life." I looked at my father, then at my sister, then back at my father. "No," I said simply. Tamika's face went white. "What? No? Keisha, he could die." "Then he dies," I said. The words felt like ice in my mouth, cold and hard and true. "You can't mean that," Tamika shrieked. "He's your father." "Is he?" I asked. "Because fathers protect their children. Fathers support their children. Fathers don't take from their children and give them nothing in return." "He gave you life," she yelled. "And I've been paying for it ever since," I said. "I'm done paying. Marcus stepped forward. Keisha, come on. Be reasonable. You have more money than you could ever spend. What's $75,000 to you? It's not about the money, I said. It's about the principle. When I supposedly needed $5,000, where was he? Where were any of you? That was different. Tamika was crying now. You lied. You weren't really in trouble. But you didn't know that, I said. As far as you knew, I was losing my house, and you couldn't spare a penny. So why should I spare $75,000 for him? Because he's dying, she screamed. Maybe, I said. Or maybe he'll pull through. Either way, it's not my problem. He made that very clear. Family business is personal business. Everyone handles their own problems, right? That's what he told me. I turned to leave. Tamika grabbed my arm, her nails dug in. Please, she begged. Please, Keisha. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. We were wrong. We were so wrong. But please don't let him die because of our mistakes. Please. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the desperation, the fear, the regret, maybe even the genuine remorse. But I also saw the years of being used, the years of being dismissed, the years of being the backup plan. And I realized that even real remorse doesn't erase real damage. I'll tell you what, I said, pulling my arm free. I'll make you the same offer you made me. I'll put you on my prayer list. God will make a way. He always does, right? I walked out of that ICU. I walked past the nurse's station. I walked into the elevator. And I didn't look back. Miss Dot was waiting in the lobby. She took one look at my face and didn't ask. Just put her arm around me and walked me to the car. Did you do what you needed to do? She asked. I did, I said. How do you feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I feel free, I said finally. For the first time in my life, I feel free. My father survived. The surgery happened. Tamika and Marcus took out a loan. Deshawn actually got a job to help with the payments. They figured it out. Like I always had to figure it out. I heard about it through the church grapevine. Heard he was recovering. Heard he was angry with me. Heard he told people I was heartless, ungrateful, cold. I didn't respond. Didn't defend myself. Didn't engage. But Miss Dot did. She stood up in church one Sunday, during testimony time, and she told them all the truth. About the test. About the rejection. About the years of exploitation. About me buying out the house. About the center I'd opened. About the women I was helping. Y'all want to call her heartless? Miss Dot's voice rang through that church. That girl has more heart than this whole congregation combined. She's just done giving it to people who crush it. And I don't blame her one bit. Half the church gasped. The other half quietly nodded. My father never apologized. Never reached out except through other people asking for money. Tamika sent occasional texts, guilt trips wrapped in Bible verses. Deshawn disappeared again. Job abandoned once the crisis was over. I changed my number. Moved to a new house. A beautiful house in Brookhaven with gates and security. Started my life over. The life I deserved. The May and Dorothy house thrived. We expanded. Added a second location. Started a scholarship fund. Hired counselors. Created a legal aid clinic. Helped hundreds of women understand their worth. And every single one of them had a story similar to mine. Every single one had been used, exploited, dismissed by the people who were supposed to love them most. Why do families do this? One woman asked during a group session. Why do they think it's okay? Because we let them, I said. Because we were raised to believe that family is everything. That blood is thicker than water. That we owe them something just because they're related to us. But we don't? She asked. We don't, I confirmed. We owe them respect when they earn it. We owe them love when they give it. We owe them support when they support us. But we don't owe them everything just because we share DNA. Another woman raised her hand. But doesn't that make us as bad as them? Cutting them off? No, I said firmly. Because we're not cutting them off out of cruelty. We're protecting ourselves out of necessity. There's a difference between revenge and boundaries. What's the difference? Someone asked. Revenge is about making them hurt, I said. Boundaries are about stopping them from hurting you. I didn't refuse to help my father to punish him. I refused because helping him would have validated everything he'd done to me. It would have said that he could treat me however he wanted, and I'd still be there. And I was done with that. The room was silent. Processing. So what do we do? The first woman asked. How do we move forward? We build new families, I said. We find people who actually deserve our love and loyalty, and we give it freely to them, without resentment, without keeping score, because they've earned it. I looked around the room at all these women, all these survivors, all these people who had been broken and were learning to be whole again. You all are my family now, I said. This center, these women, this mission, this is what family looks like. People who show up, people who support, people who don't take advantage. That's family. And they were. In the 3 years since I'd opened the May and Dorothy house, I'd helped over 500 women, and not one of them had ever asked me for money. Not once. They asked for advice, for resources, for connections, but never for cash, because I taught them what Miss Dot taught me, that asking for help is different than demanding it, that accepting support is different than exploiting it, that family is about mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. Miss Dot passed away 5 years after I opened the center. She was 76. It was peaceful, in her sleep, the way everyone hopes to go. Her funeral was packed. The church was standing room only. People whose lives she'd touched, people she'd helped, people she'd loved. I gave the eulogy. Miss Dorothy Washington, I said, my voice steady despite the tears, taught me what family really means, not through her words, but through her actions. She showed up when no one else would. She gave when she had nothing to give. She loved without condition or expectation. I looked out at the crowd, saw my father in the back row, saw Tamika, saw Deshawn. They'd come. Maybe out of respect for Miss Dot, maybe out of curiosity about me. I didn't know and didn't care. She left this world better than she found it, I continued. And isn't that what we're all supposed to do? Leave things better? Miss Dot did that. Every single day. Every single person she met. After the service, after the burial, after everyone had gone home, I stood alone at her grave. The sun was setting. The cemetery was quiet. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for teaching me that I was worth more than they said I was. The wind rustled the trees. Somewhere a bird sang, and I truly felt, at peace. I turned to leave and found my father standing behind me. Old now, slower, grayer, smaller somehow. Keisha, he said. I didn't respond, just looked at him. I'm sorry, he said. The words I'd waited my whole life to hear. I'm sorry for everything. For taking your money. For choosing your siblings over you. For not being there when you needed me. I'm sorry. I studied his face. Looked for sincerity. Looked for manipulation. I didn't know which I saw. Okay, I said finally. Okay, he repeated. That's it? What do you want me to say? I asked. That I forgive you? That we can start over? That everything's fine now? Maybe, he said quietly. Maybe that. I can't give you that, I said. Your apology doesn't undo 15 years of hurt. It doesn't repay $4,726. It doesn't erase the fact that when I supposedly needed $5,000, you told me to figure it out myself. I know, he said. I know, but I'm trying to make it right. How? I asked. How are you making it right? He didn't have an answer. That's what I thought, I said. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry you lost access to my money. Sorry that you look bad. But you're not sorry enough to actually make amends. Just sorry enough to want me back under your control. That's not true, he protested, but his voice was weak. It is true, I said, because if you were really sorry, you'd respect my boundaries. You'd accept my decision. You'd understand that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, But you don't understand that. You just want things back the way they were. When I was useful to you. I stepped around him, started walking to my car. I'm your father, he called after me. The last desperate card. I stopped, turned back. No, I said clearly. You're the man who helped create me. But you stopped being my father the day you chose convenience over me. The day you chose comfort over my well-being. The day you decided I was a resource instead of a daughter. That's not fair, he said. Fair? I laughed. A bitter sound. You want to talk about fair? Here's what's fair. I gave you 15 years of chances. 15 years of forgiveness. 15 years of showing up. You didn't take any of them. So now, I'm giving you what you gave me. Nothing. I got in my car. He stood there in the cemetery, alone, as the sun went down. I never saw him again. He died 2 years later. Heart attack. Final this time. Tamika called to tell me. Her voice was cold. Daddy died. I thought you should know. Okay, I said. Okay? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? I want you to care, she yelled. I want you to feel something. He was our father. He was your father, I corrected. He stopped being mine a long time ago. You're heartless, she spat. You're cruel and heartless, and I hope you're happy with all your money because you're going to die alone. I'd rather die alone than live the way you live, I said. Pretending that abuse is love. Pretending that exploitation is family. Pretending that people who hurt you deserve your loyalty. I hung up. She called back. I didn't answer. I didn't go to his funeral. Sent no flowers, no card, nothing. People talked. People judged. People said I was wrong. I didn't care. Because I wasn't living for them anymore. I was living for me. And for the women at the May and Dorothy house who needed to see that it was possible to walk away. Possible to survive. Possible to thrive without the people who hurt you. The center grew. We opened a 3rd location. Then a 4th. We started programs in other cities. Created an online platform. Published resources. Trained other counselors. The May and Dorothy Foundation became a national organization, helping thousands of women every year. Women who had been exploited by family. Women who had been told their only value was what they could provide. Women who needed to learn that they were worth more. And every time we opened a new location, I told my story. The story of the casino test. The story of the family who failed. The story of the woman who gave me everything when she had nothing. This isn't a story about revenge, I would say. It's a story about boundaries, about self-worth, about understanding that you don't owe anyone access to your life, your time, or your resources just because you share blood. But what about forgiveness? Someone would always ask. Forgiveness is for you, not them, I'd answer. You forgive so you're not carrying their weight. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still never speak to them again. Those are 2 different things. Isn't that cold? They'd ask. No, I'd say. Cold is taking $3,000 from your teenage daughter to fund your son's failed dreams. Cold is laughing when your sister asks for help. Cold is telling your daughter to figure it out when she's facing homelessness. What I'm doing isn't cold. It's survival. And they'd nod. They'd understand. Because they'd lived it too. I'm 45 now. 11 years since I made that $67 million. 11 years since the test. 11 years since I walked away from my blood family and built a chosen family. I'm not lonely. I'm surrounded by people who love me, not for what I can give them. I'm surrounded by purpose and meaning and impact. The May and Dorothy House has helped over 15,000 women. We've distributed over $50 million in direct aid, scholarships, and resources. We've changed lives, saved lives, given women permission to walk away from toxicity and step into their worth. And every single day, I wake up grateful. Not for the money. Money is just a tool. I'm grateful for the clarity. The clarity that came from that test. The clarity that comes from knowing who people really are when you can't give them anything. People ask me if I regret it. The test, the severance, the walking away. Never, I say. It was the best thing I ever did. But don't you miss them? They ask. I miss who I thought they were, I admit. I miss the fantasy of having a family who loved me unconditionally. But I don't miss the reality. I don't miss being used, being dismissed, being taken for granted. What would you say to someone considering doing what you did? I'd say trust yourself, I answer. Trust what you know. Trust what you've experienced. And don't let anyone guilt you into staying in a situation that's killing you. Not even family. Especially not family. This story isn't about money. It's not even really about family. It's about understanding your worth. It's about recognizing when you're being exploited and having the courage to walk away. It's about building the life you deserve instead of settling for the life you were given. I pretended I lost my fortune at the casino. I tested my family. They failed. And I won. Not because I kept my money. Not because I cut them off. But because I finally understood that I was worth more than they said I was. That I deserved better than they were willing to give. That family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you have nothing to offer. Miss Dot showed up. My family didn't. And that told me everything I needed to know. So to anyone watching this who's been in my shoes, who's been the family ATM, who's been taken for granted and dismissed and exploited, you deserve better. You are worth more. And you have permission to walk away. Build your own family. Find your people. Create your legacy. And never ever let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. That's the real fortune. Not the money in the bank. The freedom in your soul. If you've ever felt like the only one giving in your family, drop a comment below. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about boundaries, self-worth, and the courage to walk away from toxicity. Remember, you don't owe anyone access to your life, not even family, especially not family who only sees you as a resource. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.